أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. When you look at the speech of Fadak, and I'm saying this as someone that prepares speeches and lectures, especially a few nights, I've been talking about khutbah Fadakiya a few weeks, and you see that it is a khutbah that cannot easily be understood. You have to think about it, you have to contemplate. And sometimes when you read it, and some of the commentators say this too, is that as if you're reading Nahjul Balagh, you're reading the speech of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the level of eloquence, the deep meaning that it has. So therefore, a question arises, is that did Lady Fatima learn this from Imam Ali alayhi salam, to speak in this way, to have balaghat in this way? Well, we understand that Imam Ali's speeches that are compiled in Nahjul Balagha happen after the Prophet of Islam, and primarily those speeches in Nahjul Balagha and letters that we have are during the time of his rule, so after Lady Fatima salatullah alayha. So therefore, we don't have those type of speeches, at least from my limited research, from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So what she has is from herself, and what she has is from the Prophet of Islam. But this is a type of, as you know, a lot of also the sayings of the Holy Prophet, great speeches that he has given, but also in the same way we see that the hadith of the Holy Prophet was in a way that many of the hadith, if you compare, because of that time period, is a time period where the Prophet is explaining very basic things, very clear things to the people. Of course, the Prophet of Islam is unparalleled when it comes to eloquence and speech. But what we see from Lady Fatima Zahra is that line like Amir al-Mu'mineen, like Nahjul Balagha. And when you read this, and we're going to be looking at some of the sayings of her, I want you to imagine, take yourselves to Medina, and imagine you're there in Masjid al-Nabi, and the sisters section, the ladies section, is Lady Fatima is there, and she is giving these powerful words. So after the first part of the khutbah was about being grateful. The second part of the khutbah was about Tawheed and the oneness of God, and how in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, this school of thought, it is a school of thought of that Tawheed is pure, and there's ikhlas in Tawheed, that it is not in any way polluted by man's thoughts or from fake hadith. It is true Tawheed, a Tawheed that Allah says, Laysa kamithlihi shay, nothing is like him. So after this, Lady Fatima begins very deep philosophical statements, and this is at a time where her rights are usurped, and they are threatening Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And this is what she says: Ibtada al-ashya'a la min shay'in kana qablaha. He originated things, but not from anything that existed before them. She talks about how Allah created, in the creation of God. When we want something to be made in this world, we need madda, we need substance. We need, for example, if you want to make a ring, you need silver for men, or platinum. And then you go and you mold that silver or platinum in a way that you like, and then it becomes a ring. Or whatever we see, energy is just transferred into something else. But very beautifully, and you understand the power, and we cannot even fathom this, of something to become out of nothing. But she is explaining this type of creation of ibtida, of origination, that Allah creates, has originated things, not from anything that existed before them. From nothing, He says, and it was. True, we have verses in the Quran that Allah has made everything from water. It is possible that some substances were transferred into other substances and later on formed. That's true. But at the very beginning, there was nothing. So therefore, This substances came into creation. وَأَنْشَأَهَا بِاحْتِذَاءِ أَمْثِلَةٍ امْتَثَلَهَا, and created them without examples to follow. When we look at our own lives, we see that the way that man has learned, he learns from nature. And he looks at things and then he learns from them and he mimics them, or he gets ideas and then he goes forward. But Allah did not have any examples to follow. When you look at the different planets we have in our solar system and how beautiful they are, when you look at the stars, when you look at all the greenery in the depths of the oceans, you have to understand that these are all original. There's nothing, no creation before. This was original. Allah did not copy this from something else. It is all without an example to follow. So therefore, we get another step into the greatness of Allah's capabilities and His power, is that He did not have an example to follow. كَوَّنَهَا بِقُدْرَتِهِ ذَرَأَهَا بِمَشِيَّتِهِ. Rather, He created them with His might. He created these with His might. This is a very capable Lord that we have. Dispersed them according to His will, according to the will that He had. مِنْ غَيْرِ حَاجَةٍ مِنْهُ إِلَى تَكْوِينِهَا. Not for a need did He create them. وَلَا فَائِدَةٍ لَهُ فِي تَسْوِيرِهَا. Nor for a benefit for Him did He shape them. When He created, He did not have, Allah does not have any need in creation. He is ghani. His creation is faqir, is in need. A lot of times, brothers and sisters, we think that Allah needs our worship. We think that Allah needs us. Unfortunately, it might come in our minds. What would happen if nobody worshipped Allah? Nothing. Allah does not need our worship. We follow and worship Allah because this is how we become complete, and that He wants us to become complete. And if there's chastisement, if there is reward, and we'll talk about this, there is a threat, there's a reward, or there is punishment. This is why, because Allah doesn't want to allow us to sin. He does not want us to ruin ourselves or to harm ourselves. That's all it is. For example, we have so many different sins, and you have chastisements for those sins, from alcohol to the way we dress, to what we eat, for example. These all, when you realize it, inside there's corruption. If things are not done in their proper place, if things are not eaten that should be, that are halal, if things are not consumed that are halal. If we go into sin and haram, this is corruption. This is for us. We are corrupting ourselves. Does Allah have any need for us to not consume alcohol, for example? No. So therefore, we see that in every command that God has, there is benefit. In every command that He tells us to stay away from something, there is great harm. So we have to understand that there's no need that Allah has. It is just for us because He loves us and does not want us to harm ourselves. He loves us so much that He makes it a sin to fall into such corruption. He makes it a sin and warns us of the hellfire, that you will be placed in such a place if you harm yourself, if you do this to yourself. So this is about, so far, the origin. And then why, Lady Fatima, and according to, this is, I believe, in Al-Ihtijaj of Al-Shaykh At-Tabarsi, إِلَّا تَثْبِيتًا لِحِكْمَتِهِ وَتَنْبِيهًا عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ وَإِظْهَارًا لِقُدْرَتِهِ وَتَعَبُّدًا لِبَرِيَّتِهِ. But to establish His wisdom, bring attention to His obedience, manifest His might, lead His creations or creatures to humbly venerate Him. This is the purpose of creation. He has any need, but why? To establish His wisdom. Two, to bring attention to His obedience. So He has created all of this. So we say we have a powerful Lord, and we submit to Him. And manifest His might, وَإِظْهَارًا لِقُدْرَتِهِ, so that He show His power, so that we can understand and become humble when it comes. And so when you see power, قُدْرَتِهِ, you see it, وَتَعَبُّدًا لِبَرِيَّتِهِ afterwards, because you worship and you're in awe of, and you have humility towards a being that is all powerful. When someone has power, the immediate response is to have humility, to venerate them. So this is the purpose of creation, that Allah is showing His power, as we have in the tradition, kuntu kanzan makhfiyan, I was a hidden treasure. This is the hadith Qudsi attributed to God. I was a hidden treasure. فَأَحْبَبْتُ أَنْ أَعْرَفْ. So I wanted to be known. فَخَلَقْتُ الْخَلْقِ. So I created لِكَيْ أَعْرَفْ, so that I will be known. So Allah was a hidden treasure, and He has hubbul dhat, He loves Himself, and also He wants to create so that this potential that we would have, this creation, can reach their completion. And therefore we understand that the purpose that we have in life is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That the purpose of creation is to worship this powerful God that Lady Fatima alayhi salam speaks about. وَإِعْزَازًا لِدَعْوَتِهِ. I'zaz means to strengthen or to make solid. So He made solid the call or the dispatch of His prophets. How can you make solid the call of the prophets? One of the ulama, in giving commentary of this sermon, says that when you understand that they are the ambassadors of this powerful Lord, and everyone is seeing in nature the power, the ability, the design. So when they say they are ambassadors of this Lord, they realize that this is the most important backing that they have. That they are backed by the power of Allah, by the creation of Allah. So therefore this can mean this, وَإِعْزَازًا لِدَعْوَتِهِ, meaning that He strengthened His invitation, He strengthened the invitation of the prophets by this creation, this vast creation. However great you think it is, space is, it is still greater than what your imagination says it is. ثم جعل الثواب على طاعته ووضع العقاب على معصيته. So therefore, after creation, to show Allah's power, not because He has any need, and to show His power, and for this to be a sign, and this to be a backing for the prophets, then He has placed reward for His obedience and punishment for His disobedience. Brothers and sisters, when you put these together, and when you put these few lines together, and we have one more line to go, we understand that Lady Fatima is talking about first al-mabda, the origin, where we came from. Then she talks about the medium, where we are and what is our purpose, and she talks about the creation, and then being ta'abbudan li bariyatih, for them to humbly venerate Him. And then Lady Fatima talks about the destination. These are three of the most important questions that man has, and she answers in this khutbah beautifully. As I said, this is a very deep khutbah. This is a very deep sermon. This is collected in Balaghatun Nisa, one of the best speeches from the women, and compiled in this book from 1,000 years ago. And you see that she addresses such essential questions that humans have. Then she talks about ma'ad, diyadatan ibadihi min niqmatih wa hiyashatan lahum ila jannatih. He informed His slaves from performing such acts that invite His wrath, and thus would gather them in paradise. Hiyashatan lahum ila jannatih. So we could say that He would gather their purpose, and as one of the mufassirin of the khutbah says, after you put this all together, the ma'at, the medium, and then the destination, where we're going to go to, where does Allah want to go, say you should go to? Where does He will for you to go to? When you look at this, it doesn't say hell. It says وَحْيَاشَةً لَهُمْ إِلَى جَنَّتِهِ, so that they can be gathered in His paradise. So all of this origin and medium, all of it, there's a destination for it. And therefore the destination of all of this, what Allah wants, is for everyone to go to heaven. As if to say this, God wants us to go to heaven. His choice, His irada, tashri'iyah here, not takwiniyah. His will from us, what He wants, but because He has given us free will, He can't force us into heaven. But His choice is that you go to heaven. But our choice in some is that they choose hell. So therefore you don't say that Allah, His choice is for us to go to hell, that we take ourselves to hell. We take ourselves to chastisement. How beautifully Lady Fatima talks about the final destination here, that at the end, from this lifetime that we have 50 years, 70 years, 80 years, some less, some more, at the end, the final purpose of all of creation, the medium, is this real life, and to be gathered in His heaven. And even those that are in heaven, He wills not only a small level for them, He wills for them the highest of levels. He wants you to reach the highest, closest proximity to Him. So even if someone goes into heaven, but His will was for you to go into the top, best, the closest place to God. So this is the will of God. And how beautifully, imagine at such a time period, she talks about these very important 3 questions that everyone has. Min ayn, where did we come from? The origin. And we understand He created us without substance. And then we understand fi ayn, where are we now? What is the medium? Where are we now? And she talked about where we are. We're in the stage of ubudiyyah, the stage of worshipping Allah, being a slave of God. Then ila ayn, until where? Where will we go? Where we go? Hayashatan lahum ila jannatih. And thus we'll gather them in paradise. This is the destination. Brothers and sisters, imagine if somebody was unconscious, if somebody, God forbid, were to get into an accident, and someone were to hit them, and they're in the hospital, they wake up, they're unconscious, and they wake up. What is the first question they ask? They ask, where am I? Where am I? They would say, you're in the hospital right now. You're in the hospital. Then they'll think a little bit and say, why am I in the hospital? What happened? They'll say, got hit, you're in an accident. And then they'll say, then when am I going to leave? When am I going to leave this hospital? They'll say, in a few days or tomorrow or whatever, you'll be dispatched or you'll be discharged. So we understand this is our primary questions that Lady Fatima is addressing in Khutbah Fadakiyah. Questions that unfortunately, because of our nafs, because of our lower desires, or because of our lack of intellection and our weak intellect that we have, that we don't ponder and think about these things. So Fatimiyya is a time period for us to benefit from this speech. Ask ourselves this question, where did I come from? I came from nothing. Allah gave me my existence, and He is sustaining my existence for me. Therefore, inna lillah, we belong to Him. We belong to Him. Even the children we have, the most closest things that you can possibly think, even them, they are Allah's. They are trust for us. They belong to Him. Everything belongs to Him. So, why do you have, and a brief hadith from Awsara says, when everything is in God's hands and you believe in taqdeer, and determinism, as things are determined for you, of course we believe in free will, but when you also believe in taqdeer and qada and a decree, then why do you have huzn? Then why do you have grief? When everything was planned for you, yes, things change by our free will, but at the end there's major events, either if they're sad or if they're happy, they were maktub for you, they're written for you. Why do you have huzn? And then we learn about the destination, where we're going to go to. And this is something that we need to have remembrance all the time. Brothers and sisters, see, the message of Islam is fitri, is ingrained in us, it's inside us. Whenever you hear things about Islam, many of you, I'm sure, immediately go, oh yes, that's true, yes, that's how it is. Why? Because that's how you're already programmed, that was inside you already. It's as if I remind you, I said, remember in high school, you had a friend that used to sit next to you, and you're like, what? And then, and I give some of his or her attributes and how they look like. And they're like, yes, 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 they had glasses, they had a shaved head, I don't know. And say, yes, 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 I remember. In the same way, religion is the same way. It's a remembrance. That's why scholars like Allama Tabatabai talk about the fact that the call of the prophets is just a remembrance for us. So when I talk to you about Allah and laysa kamithlihi shay, nothing is like Him, and a powerful Lord that created not from learning from another type of creation and creating without substance, a powerful Lord, you say, aha, yes, 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 I remember now. So that's when your intellect connects to your soul and to your fitrah. In the same way, when I'm talking to you right now, yes, there's going to be another life, and that is the real life. That is heaven. You say, yes, 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 that's how it was. Yes, it's natural for you to believe that. Even though we have intellectual beliefs and proofs, intellectual proofs for the existence of heaven and hell. But it is fitri, it is natural. Yes, there's this afterlife. Then I tell you, yes, you have a limited time in this world. So build. Right now, many of us right now, we have some right now in this majlis, might have castles made out of rubies and emeralds. Maybe someone like me, I don't even know what's going to happen to me. Do I have a little small home in heaven, or do I have a huge castle in hell? I don't know. Really, I don't know. But some here, if you really think about it, if you open the veils, you would see right now what we have all built for ourselves. So we look at and put these three questions together, and we should not ask and say these are confusing things, very natural things. Where did I come from? Where am I now? And where am I going to go to? We understand that we have a very limited time, and we have to work, inshallah, for our akhirat. Heaven is attained from the tradition from Imam Ali with amal, with ayn, with action, not with amal, not with just sheer hope, with amal. So therefore we learn, and to make this a lesson for us, an individual, so what should we do now? Now that we know where we're from, now we know where we're going to go, now we know that our duty here is to become the most perfect and closest that we can to God. We understand that every day counts, every week counts. And that is why, alhamdulillah, I'm very happy that we started these majalis up again. I'm at your service, inshallah, and of course you can have others bring others, and the purpose of this is to restart this program if you feel others want to come and you can benefit from others. But in the meantime, I'm at your service. So every day for us is important. You have this infinite in front of you, infinity in front of you. And we have every day that we're trying to build and build and build and build, place another brick in our home. I don't know, do some flooring, do some decorations in your nice home, inshallah. But you see from the Quran, when you look at people like Ashab al-Kahf, the companions of the cave, they were those that wanted high levels of guidance. They were those that wanted this high level of proximity to God. They understood where they're from, where they are now, and where's the destination. That is why in some of the traditions we have, they have such a high status that they will be brought back from the grave and they will be the companions of Imam Mahdi. They have such a status, the Ashab al-Kahf. The Quran talks about them in Surah Al-Kahf, إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. Indeed, they were youths who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance. We gave them a higher level of guidance. This is the problem that we have. I think that once we have Islam and once we have spirituality, that's it. I'm just going to just manage and not collapse and not fall, just hold this weight and then I'll enter heaven. But that's the problem. The problem is that we were designed that every day for us should be an improvement. In the 70 years Allah has created is not that, in year 69, day 364, suddenly you reach high levels of spirituality. No, it's a design that slowly and slowly, especially when we're young. I'm not young anymore, especially when we were young, to take advantage of this and want a higher level of guidance, want higher levels of spirituality. How is this performed? By such majalis, by attending such majalis, having your friends and building a community, and remembering Lady Zahra and crying for Lady Zahra. What other way do we have to be saved than Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? So we see in the Quran, Ashab al-Kahf, they wanted higher guidance. They wanted Allah. They weren't happy with the society that they had or what was going on, and they wanted more. And that is what we look at. We look at the traditions from the Imam alayhi salam. Ala qadr niyya takun min Allah al-atiyya. How beautiful in uyun al-hikam we see in the tradition. Upon the level of intention of how much you want, min Allah al-atiyya, Allah will grant you. Allahu Akbar. However much you want. You want to be a companion, the best companion of Imam Mahdi. You have to first want this, and then Allah will give it to you. As we said, heaven is for those that want heaven. Those that want to go to hell, they will go to hell, because that is the natural inclination they have. After that soul is full of sin, they're inclined towards such things. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, how beautifully, because we have such a limited amount of time in this world, and I'm telling this to myself, inshallah, to next Thursday, think of these things. Where am I from? Where am I going to go to? Look how beautifully Lady Fatima, in such a time period, is explaining the purpose of creation. Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghboon. Whoever 2 days are equal to another, he is maghboon, he is cheated. You cannot buy time back. You can get money back. You can go get a refund. Or you could go make some more money. You work a little bit harder, maybe you can make that money back up. But you cannot buy time back. Whoever whose 2 days are equal, this is the strategy that Ahlul Bayt are giving us. This is the line that they're giving us. The 2 days should not equal to one another. Every day you go up, 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 up. And then after a year you say, wow, mashallah. It's like, when you go on a hike, when you go hiking and climbing a mountain, each step you go, you look down, and then after a while, wow, look how high I became. How elevated, I went. وَمَنْ كَانَ آخِرُ يَوْمَيْ شَرَّهُمَا فَهُوَ مَلْعُونٌ. And whoever goes down and descends from those 2 days, then he is maghboon. So he is mal'un, he is cursed. In another way, either if you're not excelling, if you're not increasing, either you're maghboon, you're cheated, you gave your life and you got nothing in return. That's a person that gets cheated. Or you're mal'un, or you're cursed because you gave your time, that entire capital that you had, your worth, your life, and you bought fire. So we see how dangerous this is for us. Inshallah, we can learn from Lady Fatima al-Zahra salawatullah alayha, how beautifully in this khutbah she talks about how things originated, al-ibtida al-ashya, and how she talks about how he has not created them for himself, so that he has created us to bring attention so that we can see. When you see creation, you should think of God's obedience. When you go to nature, when you go to and you see space and the beautiful sky, you come to God's obedience and you think about His might, and at the end, so that He can take, inshallah, us and gather us, inshallah, in going to this destination, and that this will come from our hard work. When Satan wants to cause someone to become misguided, what does he do? Slowly and slowly he chips them away. Slowly and slowly he says, encourages them to forget this, wajib thing, or this mustahab thing, now one sin, or those group of people, you can hang out with them, it's fine. And then slowly and slowly you see that taqwa that you had, that you were away from all sin, it's gone. You committed one sin, then 2 sins, then 3 sins, and it becomes a part of your soul, becomes a part of your ruh and your spirit. And then the hadith says, then the punishment comes. Then, because these ideologies and this belief that we have in Islam is a pure belief. It cannot be in a heart that's full of sin. So therefore, there resides wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, but those sins exist too. That corruption exists. Slowly they start doubting imamat and wilayat, as the tradition has. Then slowly they start doubting nubuwwah. Slowly they start doubting the existence of God, and they will become doomed at the end. So we look and we see that we have these 2 aspects to worry about. One is our intellectual proofs, to live and to think about where we're from, where we're going, and where we are now. And at the same time, For us, these beliefs to be accepted in the heart and spirit, our spirit has to be pure. And when shaitan wants to deceive us, he makes this heart impure, then in the end it causes disbelief. Inshallah, Allah will grant us salvation, inshallah, will save us, inshallah, from the hellfire. Inshallah, Allah will give us the opportunity to, inshallah, serve Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, because we need this light, we need this nur. May Allah, inshallah, give us shafa'at Lady Zahra. May Allah, inshallah, give us ziyarat of Lady Zahra and her father, inshallah. And may Allah accept this majalis from us. When you look at Lady Fatima and you look at Fatimiyya, there are two ways to look at Fatimiyya. One way is when it comes to the calamities and the bala that happen. One way is to analyze to see what happened to Sayyidatun Nisa, the best of the creation from this women, the best lady to ever live. What happened to her? This is one part of Fatimiyya. And we see that verily she has been martyred. We have hadith in Al-Kafi with Sahih source, Sahih chain. Inna Fatimata Siddiqa, she is veracious, she is very honest, and she is Shahida, she is a martyr, which the zuhur of Shahida is to become martyr. But then we look, is this the only evidence we have in our books of history? One of the ulama, he gathered this evidence and put it together and said that we have 33 sources, Shia and Sunni sources, 33 sources that her house was burned. So this is one part of Fatima, that dhulm and oppression they did to the best lady that ever lived in this world. They burned her house. The same house that Allah has in the Quran, في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع, that He has given permission to in these homes for His name to be exalted. In the hadith, it says this is the house, the house of guidance, this house that they came and they set fire. Then we have 64 sources that she was hit in a way that she would cover her hair, her face, from Amir al-Mu'mineen, from her husband. You know, they don't have to wear a scarf. A lady does not wear a scarf in front of her husband. What did they do to Lady Fatima that she would wear a scarf in front of her husband? Then we have two sources that her eyes were injured. Inshallah, these are not true. We wish that these were not true, that humanity would not be so evil. Imagine the best of creation, the best of the creation of women, come and they injured her eyes. 24 sources say that her ribs were broken. 24 sources we have. Imagine that 1 month or those few weeks from the attacks or the attack until her martyrdom, how difficult it is each time she wanted to inhale and exhale, and how she's suffering, she's in pain, and her children are watching her mother, and her mother cannot help and do those chores of the house anymore. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein and Lady Zainab and Kulthum, they're all sad, watching their mother slowly during this 1 month or few weeks, slowly go towards her death. 34 sources that she was martyred. 74 narrations about Muhsin, that her son was miscarried, from Shia and Sunni sources. But is this all of Fatimiyya? This is, yes, one of the saddest parts. But the core bala that happened in Fatimiyya is that derailment, misguidance that happened, and that now today we are still suffering because of this misguidance. That Amir al-Mu'mineen was set aside, the Imam that would have turned the world into a beautiful place, and the world would not have to suffer like this. And that we see how beautifully Ayatollah Qarawi Asfahani explains this for us. He explains the musibat, this second side of the musibat of Fatimiyya that's going to start other balas, that's going to start Karbala, that's going to cause the martyrdoms of the other Imams from the Bani Umayyah, the Bani al-Abbas, until the occultation of the Imam. This is the core of Fatimiyya, the misguidance of the Ummah of the Prophet of Islam. It says beautifully in this poetry, فَمَا رَمَا إِذْ رَمَا هَرْمَلَا. It was not Harmala that shot an arrow. He was an arif. He was a philosopher, Ayatollah al-Isfahani. It was an emerja taqleed. It was not Harmala that shot an arrow. Everyone says that Harmala killed Ali Asghar, the infant of the Prophet Sayyid alayhi salam. You know, and today if you look at debates and they talk about our actions, can they be inherently good or evil? One of the examples they give is hitting a child, because nothing is worse than that, beating up a child, they say. That's inherently, that action is inherently evil. But Harmala shot an arrow at the throat of Ali Asghar, child of Imam Hussein. But Ayatollah Qarawai Asfahani says he didn't. فَمَا رَمَا إِذْ رَمَاهُ حَرْمَلَا وَإِنَّمَا رَمَاهُ مَنْ مَهْدَلَا. And surely he shot that started it. Who started it? Who started this? سهم أتى من جانب السقيفة. An arrow that came from Saqifa, from that meeting that they had to put Amir al-Mu'mineen away. Once they put Ali aside, then this arrow was shot and caused Karbala. وَمَا أَصَابَ سَهْمُهُ نَهْرَ السَّبِيلِ. So Harmala did not shoot, Saqifa shot. And the destination of that arrow was not the neck of this sabi, of this infant. That was not the destination. بل كبد الدين ومهجة النبي. It was, you can say, the center, the core of religion was hit. Not Ali Asghar from Saqifa. The core of religion was hit. ومهجة النبي. And the heart of the Prophet was hit.